Hey everybody, another chapter in Why Me. That summer between my first and second year of college was pretty crazy. And in fact, I just remembered some other things, so I'm going to hit on a few of them. I have so many stories, I don't even know how to handle it, but I know I want to move ahead as well. But this one I'm going to cover. Over that summer, I had to have my wisdom teeth pulled. Well, actually cut out. My uncle said he could do it, but he would rather me do it in like a hospital setting where they have more equipment as a backup and things like that, because they're going to have to put me out, and if I'm lucky, they'll be able to cut all four out at one time, which is not typical because they say usually there's too much bleeding. But I told him, I said, I won't be coming back. And so my mother takes me up to York, Pennsylvania, someplace, and we go in there, and I explain to them they better take them all because I'm not coming back. I have no idea how this is going to feel, but I'm not thinking that it's going to be too good. So they take me into an operating room, and they give me a shot to settle me down a little bit, and then they put a gas mask over my face and, say count to 10, and at 10 I was still awake. I don't know whether my drug use had given me a little more resistance or not, but it took me a while to go out. Once I went, though, I was out. So anyway, I wake up and I'm laying there on my stomach, and my head's in a pillow full of blood, and I raise my head up, and my mother, I can barely see her, and I said to her, I said, did they take them all out? She said, yes, Kevin, they got them all out, so we won't have to come back. And I just flopped my head down. Another 10-15 minutes goes by. I mean, I don't know this. My mother's telling me how much time. I raise my head up, and I see her, and I look at the blood and I say again, did they take them all out? She says, yes, Kevin, I told you, they took them all out. Now, my mother's like all of us. We're not patient with people that are constantly asking the same stupid questions and things like that. Once it's answered, it's answered. That's it. Well, this went on probably 3, 4, 5 more times. And the lady, the nurse, comes in and sets me up and says, well, you can go now. And I said, shit. I said, I can't even see. And my mother, Kevin, because that's the first time she ever heard me cuss. So anyway, I literally had to bounce off the walls going down the hallway, and they had the double doors opened up, and the station wagon had the back door open, and I walked in, fell right on the back seat, and passed out. And probably another 10 times or more, maybe, on the way home, I'd raise my head up and ask my mother if they got them all out. And she started yelling at me. That she was actually getting mad at me. Stopped in Tawnytown and picked up my prescription of, I think it was oxycodone. It was a codeine type medication. And went home, put me in bed. She started telling me what food that I could eat, and she had prepared some stuff for me. And then said, see you in a week. My parents went on vacation. Now, that might seem a little odd for some people, but that wasn't odd for us. It was odd they went on vacation, but it wasn't odd that she, just walked away from me. In fact, she was probably glad to get out of the house. She probably didn't want to have nothing to do with it because she hated it when you were sick. She just hated it to an nth degree. So, we are going to have partying going on in the house since my parents are out. And I don't talk about my sister much, but this is sort of that one moment in her life where she kind of wants to experiment. So we got the kitchen table all set up, and we're drinking beer and anything else that came in the door, and we let everybody know. I mean, there wasn't that many people coming in and out, but we had some, and I was taking my pills and crunching them up and putting them on my single hit bong, and taking hits of it that way. Honestly, I don't think the pills did anything worth crap, but heck, if nothing else, I got to share them with everybody. So we got trashed, and it's kind of funny though. The next day I was hungry, and I was up at my friend's house, and they had made steak, and I ate it. I didn't care, and it hurt like hell, but I ate it anyway. I'm just a badass. That's just all there is to it. There's a lot of other stories, like whenever we would leave the farm to go anywhere, it took us 3 to 4 times longer than it should because we were drinking and smoking pot while we were out. And I mean, we were in our dump trucks and stuff like that and running around, and it didn't matter. So I'm finally ready to go back to college. I've been tutored over the summer. I hit on the girl. She didn't go for it. Whatever. Nobody ever did. I was always embarrassed afterwards. Got up to college. I don't know how I found this place, but I was kind of told everybody was there. I don't know how, but I went over to this house on this one street not too far from the actual college, but on a street that really they should have bulldozed every one of those houses over, because they should have been condemned. I mean, they were in that bad a shape. I went in the house, and the kitchen was on the second floor for some reason. You go up the steps that have no railings on them. You get up to the top, there's no railing around the opening, and there's sheets of plywood laying down because there's holes through the floor. So, and then there's this narrow, long kitchen, and everybody's in there, of course, smoking and drinking and things like that. And there they are, Booker and Sicky. And, of course, everybody's celebrating being back at college and tearing it up. Now, sitting out front of this house is a Dodge Charger, and it's up on blocks. Well, the front end's up on ramps, and I'm told that this guy's had problems with his transmission, and he got it out, and he's got the parts, but he doesn't know how to rebuild it. So I don't think anything happened well, something really happened that day, but it wasn't anything with that car. These two guys come in there with their girls, and I don't know where they came from, but they weren't college students or anything like that. Of course, half my people weren't college students. I mean, half the people I ran into especially the second year. In fact, it got to the point the only two that were college students was Booker and Sicky, and nobody else. These two guys come in there and they start bragging about their girlfriends and talking about shooting up heroin. Well, believe it or not, pagans draw the line at shooting, supposedly. And Sicky really, started ragging on him because he wanted them to leave. So he started asking if their girls were as, accommodating as his girlfriend. Now, I didn't know what was going to happen here, but after a while of this, he started talking about his girlfriend giving him a blowjob and asked if those girls would do the same thing. And there's other guys going, yeah, they got to do that, and I'm thinking, no, this ain't going to happen. And about that time, he pulls down his pants and she goes down on him, sitting there right beside the stove in a wooden chair, and the two girls, they're telling these guys they want to get the hell out. The guys don't want to leave, but they're all wasted anyway. So they kept bugging the girls, and the guys were kind of hanging on the girls. Other guys were hanging on these girls, and finally they told their boyfriends, we're fucking leaving. See ya. Well, of course, they followed along with them. After that, I had to go outside and get some air. I couldn't believe that I actually saw that. And I even remember near the end, Sicky says to his girlfriend, that's alright. He says, I've already taken too many drugs. I can't. He says, I wouldn't be able to get it up if I had to. So she, helped him get his pants up, and it was all over. I was a little bit surprised. So while I was there in college the second year, I ran into a few situations where people needed help. I mentioned this car outside. Well, the girl, and I kind of took to the girl that, in other words, the guy that owned the car had a girlfriend, and I kind of took to her. I didn't, I didn't try to get in on it or nothing like that. I did end up dating her. I guess we'll have to wait for another time for that. But in the case of this car and this transmission, I told the guy, he was telling me that he couldn't put it back together, and I said, well, I'm sure that I can put it back together. I've done them before. Not a Chrysler, but I knew that they're all about the same. So anyway, one day I got the stuff I needed, like grease and stuff like that, because the needle bearings have to be just held in place by grease. There's no cage on them. And I sat out there on the curb, and I put this transmission together. I did something he said was impossible, but I told him, I said, I'm sure I can put the cluster gear in first. And then, as long as I don't bolt the nose gear in tight, I should be able to put the top set of gears in and meet it all up. And sure enough, it did work. So I felt kind of proud of myself, and you dumbass, I told you I could do it, type of attitude, like a lot of us have, maybe still have. got that thing together, put it up in the car, helped him do that. Before long, he was back on the road again. His girlfriend, man, she was a good driver. She could drive that thing, and that's, you know, that's not just it's a big car. It's hard to shift them things compared to these little like Miatas and things like that are around nowadays. But she really knew how to handle a car good. I mean, driving, she knew what she was doing. Maybe that's part of the reason I was kind of interested in her. One time, since I'm talking about helping people, this was in the middle of winter. It was probably, you know, close to, or in December, something like that. I got a call while I was at college. I mean, taking my major, and my girlfriend, now that girl that I was talking about, she's now my girlfriend. She calls me up and says her friend is living in a house that's half done, and there's a sliding glass door that's supposed to be on the back side of this house, and it's not up yet. And she's living in this house with two fairly young children. I thought, oh man. And I'd never put one in, but I never thought, in other words, I didn't think it'd be any big deal. So I just walked right out of class. And I got written up for that day, and there'll be a story about that unless I just get tired of talking about college. And I go over there, and with the wind blowing and snow coming in, and on like a second floor, because the basement was at ground level, so I'm not working on the ground, and I had to worry about losing the whole door and watching it fall out. But I got it in and got it closed up for him to make the house a little warmer. It wasn't even finished on the outside, so it wasn't all insulated or anything. It was terrible. But this is the kind of things I ran into. It was just, you know, dilapidated houses people were living in, and all kinds of less than desirable conditions for survival. I'll word it that way. Well, I guess we'll get started with, oh no, I'm going to cover this too. I mentioned that now I'll cover that next time. Has to do with me taking 21 credits, which you're only supposed to take 18. But I'll cover that next time. Have a good evening. You do realize it's evening now for me, right? See ya.